Colonel?
War is never over, but the war in Iraq certainly isn't. Sean, let me sum up the president's speech tonight for you in one sentence. I, Barack Obama, am going to do what Bill Clinton did with Al-Qaeda and kick the can down the road to the next president. Let me go on record on September 10th, in the year of our Lord in 2014, as saying that Barack Obama's shabby pretense at a strategy, as laid out tonight, will not defeat and destroy the Islamic State. And by the way, it is Islamic, and it is a nascent state with a caliphate. The president, it's just appalling to me. I do applaud him for finally saying we're going to strike inside Syria. That's a good thing. Applause, Mr. President. But when and with what force? What force will this air campaign have? Does he really believe that the Iraqi military, which collapsed as soon as ISIS waved at it, is going to be magically rebuilt and take them on the ground? Does he really believe we can use air power effectively without our special operators and tactical air control parties on the ground? Does he really believe that he's going to build a serious coalition? He's got 9 states so far. Bush had 48, 40 of which contributed troops in 2003. He's got 9 states, none of which are willing to fight. There's no coalition. He's counting on a government in Baghdad that excites no loyalty from the people. It's so pathetic that I've actually got to control my anger and simply say it's idiotic nonsense.
You know, Colonel North, I went through today over my radio show, I predicted the president would say no combat troops, not dragged into another ground war. But more importantly, he won't refer to this as a war. The whole issue about ISIL that he says is not Islamic, I want to get you, and it's not a state. But look at all the territory that they have now accumulated. They have a country the size, in terms of landmass, bigger than Belgium. They really are a state, and it seems that there's a missing chip here, and that is, does the president not understand that there is this desire by radical Islamists for a worldwide caliphate, and that's what this movement is? It seems to be missing in the equation.
Ralph is absolutely right. This office of the presidency, this vaunted White House, does not understand that, and they reject it. Further to what Ralph was just saying, we're now going to support the Free Syrian Army, those so-called moderates that he dismissed as nothing but doctors and technocrats. Think about this. The Free Syrian Army now has to fight a two-front war against Assad and against ISIL. I mean, all of this is the direct consequence of what everybody's been saying with you for 2 or 3 years. The pullout, the bug-out, as the troops called it in 2011. Was the catalyst that gave them what they needed to go ahead. And that's what grew ISIL. Now, it's great that there's a new Iraqi government. Do we have a status of forces agreement? Think about this. We've already got 1,000 special operators and Marines on the ground in the country. They're not boots on the ground, they're wearing boots. And they're on the ground. Do we have a status of forces agreement with this new government? What does he think going before the United Nations Security Council is going to do? He says he has the authority to address the threat from ISIL. Well, why not go to Congress for a resolution of support for the air operations that he thinks is going to somehow reverse things in Syria and in Iraq? Here's why. It's blatant politics. Blatant politics because he knows he doesn't want to put Democrats on the line before the November election. That's why he didn't go to Congress today. That's why it's pure politics. And unfortunately, if we don't have another carrier battle group out there and a Marine Expeditionary Force for a quick reaction force, you lose an aviator out there and you watch that aviator being handled like 2 correspondents were, God help us, because that's what's going to happen.
I want to just talk about maybe some of the political ramifications or implications of all of this. The president now, by a 10-point margin, 52 to 42%, see his presidency as more as a failure. 91% of Americans, Colonel North, view ISIS as a serious threat to U.S. vital interests. Is this going to be enough, the plan the president laid out at this late date, to accomplish the mission of degrading and destroying ISIS?
No, I don't think it is. I don't think Ralph thinks it is. Look, he didn't even mention Erdogan and Turkey. Erdogan, who's a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, controls the only viable military force out there besides our own, which is offshore in some other country. He's all but decapitated the Turkish army, which would be the one that would have to go in and make sure something happened the right way with the Free Syrian Army. The remnant of what's left of the Iraqi army is going to take not just weeks or months, it's going to take years to rebuild them, and we've done little or nothing for the Kurds. He's relying on our so-called coalition partners, among them Albania.
What is your take, Colonel Peters, in terms of the ultimate success, number one, and a question I asked Senator McCain earlier, and that was, do you think this president has the ability to see this through? It was back to a question I was asking you the other night. When we now politicize wars, Vietnam, Colonel North, you fought in Vietnam, or we politicize this war, and we make decisions through the prism of politics, all the gains that so many Americans died for, I am very concerned about sending Americans into harm's way in any capacity and not finishing the job that we need to finish.
Well, that's absolutely right. And a fundamental problem is that President Obama wants to do everything military. He wants to do it as cheaply as possible. And that's one of the guaranteed ways to wind up in a very expensive and bloody war. You can't, the primary advantage of a superpower, Sean, is superpower. You don't modulate your response. You whack those suckers, and you keep whacking them, and you scorch the earth, and then you plow it over, and you scorch it again. I mean, this is absolute nonsense. But again, I don't think his goal is to defeat and destroy the Islamic State Caliphate. I really believe, as I said earlier, his goal is just to kick the can down the road and get out of office in early 2017 and dump it in the next president's lap.